All right. Thank you, Dennis, and thank you, everyone, for coming out today. My name's David G. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic, sexaholic, sober in both programs, August of 1984 in AA, October 1st of 2019 in SA. Very grateful member of both programs today. Very grateful member. Wow, we've been journeying for a long time through the book. It seems now about 18 or 19 weeks, and we've made it up to page 83. We're going to be looking at the 9-step promises today. There's so much stuff here. It's just packed full of goodies. You know, if we've done the work up to this point, we've really begun to recover, not just stay sober here. And it's it's a journey. Thank God that I didn't miss. You know, I was in AA for a long time. You all know my story. You've heard me talk about it many times. I was in that program for 2.5 decades before, I finally bottomed out with lust. And when that happened, I was able this time, thank God, to come to SA and embark upon what you good people had to offer. And what a journey it's been. It's been good. It started out, it was rough waters. I didn't know if I was going to be able to make it, but you guys held my hand and you walked me through. And I came to a realization over here that you guys were using the big book in order to recover. I didn't know that when I first got here. And man, that sweetened the deal for me because, I'd had some experience in this book for a lot of years. I had been able to take a lot of people through the steps and through the work as outlined in the big book. And it's just been a great journey. It really has. Several of my guys that I sponsor in the SA program are on the call today. We're going to be looking at some things that I show them from day one. Whenever I start to sponsor a guy, we go to step 10 and we begin the 10th and 11th step process from day one. Now, we most definitely back up to the front of the book and start working the steps as they're laid out in order. But I think if we're not keeping an eye on these things, our mind will definitely come back and trick us back into the old behaviors. And that's been my experience over and over, and the experience of the guys that I talk with as well. So taking a look last week, we had looked at making amends to the dead. And that's the paragraph before there on 83, second to the last paragraph. We went through that. Talked about sending an honest letter to those who have passed away and some people that can never be seen. And so today we're going to be taking a look at the 9-step promises on the bottom of page 83. Now you hear the promises mentioned a lot. Different people will put out posts and they'll say, these are the promises of the program. And they're right, they are. But there's a lot of promises of the program, not just on the page 83. If you remember, almost every page that we've been through in this work coming up through these weeks, there has been promises laid out. There's a set of promises on the page 63, on page 75, all the way through the book. And now, so these aren't just the promises of the program, they're the 9th step promises of the program. And so let's take a pretty close look at those and let's journey through the rest of what's going to happen after we make amends. And then we'll look at steps 10 and 11 today. Bottom of page 83, if we are painstaking about this phase of our development, in other words, our amends, one of the things that my sponsor asked me to do from the beginning was to take that word painstaking and turn it around. Well, I didn't like what I saw when I turned that word around because it said taking pain. And he said, so the first few of these amends, it's going to be rather difficult to do. Now, you've been ready for this through the first 8 steps. You have prepared yourself to make these amends. It's going to be fearful, and you're going to take a little bit of pain in doing so. But I promise you, you will be amazed before you're halfway through. And that was most definitely the case. As I've talked about for the last few weeks, I've made all of my amends that was on my list except one amends, and that one's still left undone. But it's definitely brought about what the next sentence is going to describe. A new freedom and a new happiness, not just being sober. I have found a new freedom. And Dennis and I were talking about this today, I think actually earlier. The freedom that we have found, the happiness that we have today, it just comes from within. It's not like I even have to work for that or hope one day it'll come. No, if I do this process, it will come. It will definitely come. That is the promise. We are going to know a new freedom, not just a freedom, a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. Now, 14 months ago when I came here, I couldn't have told you that. I wanted to shut the door on everything that was happening to me. I didn't want any of that to go any further than it had already went. And I definitely regretted the past. That was one thing that I regretted so much, the hurt that I put my family through and other people through. Today, I don't regret that. I'm sorry for what I've done. I've done as best I can to make that right, but I don't regret that today. The reason why is because there's people I can reach with this message and that experience. So I do not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. He says, we will comprehend the word serenity and we will know peace. My God, what a promise. I don't know about you, but whenever I came here, I knew anything but peace. I had no peace whatsoever. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. When I left the Fellowship of AA about 14 months ago, that was as low down as I had ever been in my life. Being exposed for the things that I'd done in great detail. They told about these things. I just thought, my God, I don't see how I could ever my experience could benefit anyone else. I had been exposed and I was very afraid. I was afraid that I had picked up an STD and that I was bringing that home to my wife. There was something that within me kept telling me, you need to go get tested. You need to go get tested. And I just refused that. I said, no, absolutely not. I'm not doing that. If something comes up, I'll deal with it then, but I'm not dealing with this. And I can remember there was a voice within me. It was like, you're going to do this. And it's almost like there was a hand in the small of my back pushing me to go do that. Now, I went to that clinic that day, very ashamed and afraid that I might see somebody in there that I knew, because I knew a lot of people. And it's a small town. So I went in, I sat down, I went in and got the tests. They told me if you don't hear anything back from us in 3 to 5 days, you're going to be okay. No news is good news. Well, I'm not that kind of guy. I need to know. I need to hear it out of your mouth that everything is okay. And we had a bad case of the flu about that time last year, and they were very busy. So 3 to 5 days, I didn't hear anything. And I was absolutely crazy those 3 to 5 days, absolutely scared to death. I can remember just sweating profusely on my knees, begging and praying, every kind of prayer I could ever come up with, I was coming up with. Now, my wife hadn't found out at this time, but she could tell something was wrong. She didn't know what, but she could tell something was wrong. And so 3 to 5 days, I finally got back a hold of them. They're like, man, we told you if you didn't hear from us, you're okay. And as it turns out, there's one test that they don't do. And of course, that's the one I thought that I had. And it just went on and on and on. But here's what ended up happening. After I got on the other side of that, I got into SA, I got into recovery, and I started working the steps. What it says here is exactly what started happening. The feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. If you'll hold right there with me for just a second and flip back over to page 72 in the book. Remember, after we finished the inventory and we jumped into the 5th step directions, the very first couple of sentences in that chapter told us exactly that this promise was going to happen over there where we're at today. Having made our personal inventory, what shall we do about it? And here it is. We've been trying to get a new attitude, and that's exactly what it gave us over there. A new relationship with our Creator and discover the obstacles in our path. So over here, back on page 84, we see that that's exactly what has happened as a result of following that work from there all the way to here. Fear of people and economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. What a promise. We will suddenly realize that God, see, not the fellowship, not the program, that's all tools, and we got to have all of it. But we never want to lose sight of who is doing this. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Now, there's a lot of things I can do for myself. I can pick up the phone. I can make a call. I can attend a meeting. I can get out of myself and do what my sponsor asked me to do. So there's things that I can do for myself. But the things I can't, I suddenly realized that God is going to do that for me. What a beautiful promise. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They're being fulfilled among us. Sometimes quickly. That would be the spiritual experience such as Bill Wilson had in that hospital. The awakening comes more slowly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them. And I can remember a guy telling me, Dave, the word work here, it doesn't matter. We don't work. I mean, we just don't work. Well, I completely disagree with that. You know, at the time he was 12 years sober, I was 30 days. I wasn't going to argue with the man, but everything I read today tells me there's one person that's going to do some work here for my recovery, and that's me. I mean, I'm going to depend upon a loving God, and I'm going to depend upon a sponsor to guide me. But you can bet my sponsor's not going to work for my recovery. I'm going to be the one work for my recovery. And that's what I tell my guys from day one. I'll work as hard for your recovery as you do, no matter which way that goes. So let's take a look at this paragraph, and many of us are familiar with this. I know that my guys that are on the call today is the one thing that I tell them from day one, what this looks like as we do it before the first 9 steps is going to be a whole lot different than what it looks like after we do the first 9 steps. There's going to be a big difference. But either way, we're going to do that, and we're going to start right here. So whenever I sponsor a man asks me to sponsor him, and we talk on the phone, we talk for a little bit, I get an idea of his behavior, just like it talks about him working with others. You know, I want to put myself in his place to see how I would like to be approached if the tables were turned. I do everything it talks about in the 7th chapter. When we agree on all that stuff, I bring him to this paragraph in the book, and I say this. This thought brings us to step 10. Which thought? What thought brings me to step 10? Well, the thought that I have done the work in the first 84 pages, that I have made my amends, all of them, to the best of my ability, then the thought of what's about to happen to me is fixing to come full circle. So this thought brings me to step 10, which suggests that we continue to take personal inventory and we continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. We're not going to say we're sorry. I mean, if we owe a sincere apology, we're going to make one, but we're not going to run around saying, I'm sorry, looking for absolution. What we're going to do is we're going to set right any new mistakes as we go along. We vigorously commenced this way of living as we cleaned up the past in the first 9 steps. That's exactly what we've done through this work. We have entered the world of the spirit. Beautiful promise right here. I can remember asking my sponsor early in AA because I had read this part of the book, and I said, well, if we're just now entering the world of the spirit, what have I been doing prior 84 pages? And he said, preparing to enter the world of the spirit. And I'll never forget that because that's something that I didn't know we were doing. Well, our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. You hear in the program a lot that the 10th, 11th, and 12th steps is the maintenance steps. My book doesn't say anything about that. In fact, it says our next function is to grow, not maintain anything. In understanding and effectiveness, this is not an overnight matter. It should continue for a lifetime. So I will tell the new man the same thing that was told to me. That sentence right there should tell you how long we're going to do this. For the rest of my life, I'm going to continue to do these things. And if I don't, let me give you just a brief outlook of what happened to me for 2.5 decades of not doing this. I ended up in places that I swore I would never go in my sobriety. My recovery took a hit unlike anything it ever had. The fiery arrows was coming at me from all directions. I might get rid of them for a little bit and they would come right back. I never had worked steps 10 and 11 as they're outlined in the book. Now, I could read the book like I'm doing today. I could break them down to you. I could tell you all this wonderful stuff, how they worked, when they worked, but there was one thing missing. I wasn't doing it. But today I do this. And for the last 14 to 15 months that I've been in AA, I've never missed a day of this. Whenever we came to this part of the book, my sponsor and I, this is the one thing that I picked up. And even through the worst of times, I do not miss these reviews, and I don't miss doing these 10 steps daily. It's a powerful, powerful tool in our recovery. And if we will use it, we're going to take a look at what's going to happen to us. Now, this doesn't matter if we've experienced the first 9 steps or not. If we're doing this and we're in the front of the book and we're working up to this point, we're going to have an experience just by doing what it tells us to do right here. So look at what he says. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. Now remember, back over in step 4 in a resentment part of our inventory, after we did the prayer work, this is what we took a look at. And this set it up as something that we were going to look at from now on, starting way over there. And here we are now looking at it again. When these crop up, not if, when. So they're coming. Be sure of that. They're coming back. So the first thing I do is I have my guy to write number 1 above selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear, because that's the first thing he's going to do. And we're going to call this spot the thought. We're going to be watching for this thinking from now on, all day long. We're going to look for this. Now, when these crop up, I have him to write this above this next sentence, number 2. This is the second thing he's going to do. We're going to ask God at once to remove them, not after a while. I've got a small window of opportunity right here in catching that thought and asking God to remove that. If I rest on that for just a few minutes, you can bet that that thought is going to grow, and it's going to begin to overtake me. So I got a small window of opportunity right here to turn this over once I find it. I have them to write number 3 above this next sentence. We discuss them with someone immediately. Now, I know if a thought comes up, I'm not going to call my sponsor 20 to 30 times a day and tell him, okay, I've spotted this. But you know what? He does expect it via text. And so that's the one thing I do. I do the first 3 things right here. I spot the thought, number 1. Number 2, I ask God to remove it at once, not after a while, at once. The third thing I do is I discuss this with someone immediately. And if you look at these, the way that they're outlined in the work that we've come through the week, really 4 through 9 is what brings about this awakening to recover. Selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear, that's step 4. We ask God to remove them. There's step 6. Discuss them with someone immediately. There's step 5. Look at what it says. Make amends quickly if we've harmed anyone. There's 8 and 9. And so that's what I'm going to do. That's number 4. And if I owe an apology, I need to make it. But here's the 5th thing, this next sentence, and probably the most important of all, other than asking God to remove it. We resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. It's asking me to do 5 things right there all day long. Spot the thought. Ask God to remove it. Send a text immediately. Now, if the thought is overwhelming, I'm going to pick up the phone and call. I'm not going to text. But if it's something that's not threatening, then I'm going to send a text because I want to stay current with my thoughts. I'm going to make amends quickly if I've harmed anyone, and then I'm going to resolutely turn my thoughts to someone I can help. I don't even have to help anyone. I have to turn my thoughts toward helping someone. Man, what a powerful, powerful tool this is. If we will do those 5 things right there on a daily basis, I promise you that life will change in a big way. Nobody can work step 10 the way it's outlined every day and stay the way you are. It's just not possible. This is what brings about the great change for us. Love and tolerance of others is our code. Look at this. We have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol, even lust, even sexual acting out. We're not fighting it no more. I can't fight that. It beats me every time I try to fight it. So why is it for 25 years I try to fight that? I've got a very powerful ego, and it thinks it's still got some control. And so, I'm going to try to fight. It never works. It never has and never will. Look at this. The greatest promise in all the big book, and I know you hear me say that every week that we come out, but this by far has to be the greatest promise in the big book of AA. For by this time, sanity will have returned. All the way back over there in step 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Here we see it come full circle. I can be wealthy, have all the money in the world, and I can be a very sick man. I can be physically healthy and just my physical health just be phenomenal and be as sick with lust as I could ever be. I know I've been on both sides of that. If I don't have sanity, I don't have anything in this program, nothing. Sanity is by far the greatest gift we will ever be given in this program. And look at that sentence. For by this time, sanity will have returned. That's why I put those men into that work from day 1, right there. We will seldom be interested in liquor, lust, or sexual acting out. If tempted, we require recoil from it as from a hot flame. I was sitting on my couch about a month ago. There was a text came through on my phone. I didn't recognize that number. I thought, that's kind of strange. I popped it open. There was a short video of a woman on it. It scared me immediately. Fear struck me. And what it said was, hey, this is so-and-so, just wondering if you might like to get together some. Now, I haven't had a text like that come at me in many months, and I didn't recognize the number, and it scared me. In fact, I thought, oh, God, I used to live for those kind of texts to come through on a daily basis. But that one scared me. My wife walked in. She said, what's going on? She seen the change on me. I said, you need to sit down. I need to show you this text. I don't know who this is. And immediately we began to look at it together. And about that time, another one came through. And I just said, wrong person, not interested. And, they kept on. And of course, I blocked the number. And so we talked about it for some time, and we was able to work through that to see if that's not something that I had planned or any of that. But what that sentence said right there is exactly what happened to me that night. We recoil from it as a hot flame, but I felt the burn, and I was getting away from it fast. And so I don't know who it was or what it was, and I don't even care. I just thank God that day that I was able to walk away from that. Look at what he says. We react sanely and normally. That's what happened. I didn't get upset. I didn't get mad. I didn't threaten. I didn't say, I'm going to find out who this is. I'll get the white pages, reverse this number and get a number and do any of that. I reacted sanely and normally. It's no big deal. Let's pray for this person. Let's block the number and let's move on. That's what we did. We will see that this has happened automatically. See, I didn't choose for that to happen. It just happened automatically. We will see that our new attitude toward liquor, lust, sexual acting out has been given us. It's a gift without any thought or effort on our part. Remember, our thoughts are our will. Effort refers to our life. We give our will and life to the Creator at this point, way a long time ago. And so without any thought or effort on our part, it just comes. That's the miracle of it. We're not fighting it. Thank God. We've got to quit fighting. And that's what I tell my guys, especially those that are in chronic relapse. You've got to stop fighting. You got to quit. I understand the need to, but it's never going to work. So he says, we're not fighting, neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we've been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. See, that's beyond a choice. If I would have had the choice to choose what happened that night, in earlier days, I would not have chose what I'd done. I would have chose something different. So this is so far beyond choice. By doing this work and getting into this process, we have been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. My God, that's beautiful. I've got something within me that's going to protect me from these times that are coming up. If I will lean into that, if I will do this work, and if I will continue to stay on the directions that are outlined on page 84. We've not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed for us. Now, at this point, if any of us are thinking still that lust is the problem, we're far off the beam. Lust has not been the problem here for a long time, and really never was. So if you'll hold your place right there with me and flip back over to page 45, we want to take a close look at what the problem really is. Now, we looked at this when we came through this work, and a lot of us read it. But let's take a look one more time. Lack of power. That was our dilemma. See, this is the problem, lack of power, not lack of belief in God, not lack of faith, not lack of trust, not lack of any of that. Lack of power. That's the dilemma. We are unplugged from the power, so we're running around in the dark doing all of these crazy things. We're lusting and sexually acting out, and we can't stop. And so we have to plug back into the power. That's on page 45. The promises we are reading over there are on page 85. So 40 pages later, as a result of doing this work, exactly what my lack of power is now becomes my power on a daily basis. Look at what he says. We had to find a power by which we could live. We find that in the next 40 pages. It had to be a power greater than ourselves, obviously, but where and how are we to find the power? Well, we're going to do the work as outlined in the next 40 pages from this point right here. And he says that's exactly what the book is about. The main object is to enable you to find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem, not enable you to solve it, not help you solve it, do the process of this work through these next 40 pages, you will connect back to the power, and the power will solve your problem. The problem is not lust. The problem is lack of power. Back over on page 85, the problem has been removed. Beautiful, beautiful promise. It does not exist for us. Wow. Wow. We are neither cocky nor afraid. Now, that is our experience. This is how we react. And this is probably some of the most important words on this page. So long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. So there is a condition here, and this is it. So long as. In other words, as long as we continue to do what he outlined there on page 84, if I will do that and be faithful to it daily, and I have done the work in the first 84 pages up to there, then the promise is I'm not just sober now. I'm recovered from a hopeless state of mind. But being alcoholics and sexaholics, let's look at what most of us do. It's easy to let up on the spiritual program of action. That's steps 4 through 9, which is located right there on 84 and step 10. 4 through 9, we will do on a daily basis if we do what it's asking us to do over there. But it's easy to let up on that. And that's why sometimes my guys say, man, you're just too hard. You're too tough about that step 10. You know, I mean, we have to be, because it's easy to let up on that program of action and rest on our laurels. Look what it says. We're headed for trouble if we do. Now, it doesn't always say that we're going to lust or act out or drink or whatever it is, but it says we're headed for some trouble. My thinking is going to go in reverse. I'm going to begin to lie. I'm going to begin to hold secrets. I'm going to start doing the things that get me in a whole lot of trouble here. And look at what he says. Alcohol, lust, sexual acting out, whatever you want to call it, is a subtle foe. We're not cured of alcoholism. What we really have is daily reprieve, contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. And I think right there is where a lot of people really get confused whenever it comes to what they call the maintenance steps of the program, which is, 10, 11, 12. But see, the book doesn't say that. It doesn't say that we have a daily reprieve contingent upon the maintenance of the last spiritual steps. It says our spiritual condition. And I want to condition myself to be spiritually. If you'll hold right there with me and flip back to page 77 for just a second. We were preparing for this before we even got to here. He says this, talking about prejudice. It says that the moment we're trying to put our lives into order, but this is not an end in itself. Our real purpose, you ever wonder what your purpose is? Right here it is. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves. Be sure to include the word fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. I used to run around and saying my purpose is to be of service to God and my fellow man. And my sponsor stopped me one time in a meeting. He said, no, your purpose is to fit yourself. Big difference. And so I've always remembered that. Okay, so powerful, powerful information. Back over on page 85. Every day is a day when we must carry the vision of God's will into all of our activities. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. Now, these are thoughts that must go with us constantly. And by this time, by doing the work in the book, that will be our constant thought. You can look at others around this program. There's a few on this call that I highly respect, and I watch them, men and women. That's their thought. I see it. Look at this next sentence. I would say the most powerful promise in the book, but I've already said that for the last 84 pages. So very, very powerful promise right here. We can exercise our willpower along this line. All we wish is the proper use of the will. Now, when I first come into the program, they told me my willpower was dead. And there would never be any more further use for it. My deal was to get rid of willpower and pray to God it never came back. Me and Will were no longer buddies. I mean, he had his way with me and it was time to let him go. Page 85 absolutely does not say that at all. We can exercise our willpower along this line. In other words, the prior 84 pages and doing the work, my willpower is going to be given back to me. And I can use it all I wish because it's the proper use of the will. Man, that's beautiful. Beautiful. Much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from him who has all knowledge and power. Look at this sentence real carefully. If we have carefully followed directions, if we have done this work as outlined in the book, we have begun to sense the flow of his spirit into us. Wow. That's what I've been needing all along. To some extent, we have become God conscious. We have begun to develop this vital sixth sense, but we must go further, and that means more action. Page 84, step 10 with my guys, day 1. The second thing we do is what we're about to look at here. And he says this, step 11 suggests prayer and meditation. We shouldn't be shy on this matter of prayer. Better men than we are using it constantly. It works if we have the proper attitude and work at it. It would be easy to be vague about this matter, yet we believe we can make some definite and valuable suggestions. Now, I don't know about you, but I know about me, and most of us that come in here, we don't have any idea about meditation. We have a great idea about prayer. We've been doing it our whole life, one way or the other. You know, if I'm in jail, I'm praying to get out. If I'm this, and, you know, I know a little bit about prayer, but I don't know anything about meditation. They tell me that prayer is talking to God and meditation is listening to him, and I can't hear God. And I can't hear God because I got too much noise in my head. I got all the stuff. But by the time that I've done this work in the prior 85 pages, that's not the case anymore. I have made conscious contact with a power greater than myself. He has solved my problem. Now it's my job to intuitively listen to him and to do those things that it's asking me to do on page 84 in step 10. And if I will stay on top of that all day long, as it's outlined in the book, I'm probably not going to have a very long list to write here at night. Now, if I haven't, I'm probably going to have a pretty long list. And whenever I first started this work doing step 11, and remember, I had been in the program 2.5 decades and never done this ever. I might have read it, thought about it a little bit or something. I never done it consistently the way that I do it today. Today, via email, I send this to 2 sponsors, one in AA, one in SA. I've never missed this since day 1. And I lay it out like this. When we retire at night, we constructively review our day, not destructively. We got to be very careful right here because our mind will always want us to see the bad things that we've done. It will tell us, you know, you screwed up. You've messed up today. There's no need for this. But, you know, I don't want to listen to that voice. Here I need to ask God's help. Show me constructively how to look at my day. Here's the first question. We're going to compile these 4 into one question. Were we resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? That's all one question. If my answer is yes to any of those, looking at my day from the time I got up this morning until I get ready to go to bed here in just a little bit, then I'm going to write yes and briefly give an account of what happened. Now, I'm not going to wait till I lay down in bed to do this. I've tried to do that in the past, and what ends up happening is I fall asleep, I'm too tired, and I don't get the review done. It asked me to do it when I retire. So sometime between the time that I eat dinner at night and the time that I relax into my big chair, I'm going to sit down and do this review right then. My wife and I love to watch movies together. That's one of our big things to do today. That TV goes off. She writes a review and sends to her sponsor. I write one and send to mine. And it's just constantly emails until we're finished with that. She likes to go back and proof hers and do all this. I don't do any of that. I just send it, and, you know, hopefully they'll get what I'm talking about if I misspell a word or something, you know, but she's not that way. She wants it looking pretty for her sponsor. So, you know, but that's her, not me. Next question. Do I owe an apology? That's yes or no. If I owe it, I need to be willing to make it. And today, because of this work and what I've done in the first 9 steps, I'm willing to make that. And I've had to make a few. I've had to make them to my boss. I've had to make them to my wife. I've had to make them to some of you. And so, you know, if I owe an apology, I need to do that. Look at this one. And this is probably the biggest one of them all. Have I kept something to myself which should have been discussed with another person at once? And in parentheses, I put secrets. Have I held on to any secrets today that I really would rather not share? Did I take a couple of extra looks at the store? Did I come up with a great idea in my head of how I could talk to somebody that I shouldn't be? I want to take a close look at some of these things, some of these little secrets that try to creep in on me. And if I've held on to any of them, then I need to write this in my email briefly. How? Look at this one. Were we kind and loving toward all? I type out that question And my answer was constantly yes, because, outwardly I was a little different by this time, and I was doing okay. I was being nicer to people. And so I talked to my sponsor in AA, and I said, do you think I'm doing something wrong here? And he said, why would you ask that? And I said, because I'm answering yes every day to that. He said, well, have you been? And I said, yes. And he said, what about inwardly? Oh my God. I mean, that was a punch in the gut, because there were times whenever I was talking to my boss and I was being kind and respectful to him, but in my mind, I wanted to slap him around like I used to do people back in the old day, and I found that I need to look inwardly. Was I kind and loving inwardly? Man, whenever I think about my mother, there are times when inwardly I'm just so burnt up with some of the things with her. But this gives me an opportunity to stop and pray during that time as well. See, it's prayer and meditation, not prayer or meditation. So when I see this, one of my prayers is, God bless her and change me. Bless her, change me. God, show me how to be the son that she deserves. Help me to be open and honest in a general way. Don't let me hold any of this in, because it's going to corrode. It's poison inside of me. Look at this one. What could I have done better? I have some guys, they'll write nothing. No. I was kind of loving toward all. Did I have any resentments? No. Any secrets? No. Anything I should discuss? Nope. Kind of loving all? Yep. Could have done better? Not sure. And they'll give an overview of their day. When that happens, it turns into a mental exercise. It is no longer prayer and meditation time. Nobody can do that day after day. I just don't believe that. My sponsor is one of the most spiritual men I know in AA, and he has something every day. And so do I, because I'm looking at my thoughts, just not my actions, but my thoughts as well. So what could I have done better? I could have prayed more. I could have kept myself from taking that second look. I shouldn't have drove down the street. I knew what had been down there in the past. I shouldn't even go in that direction anymore. I could have, I could have talked to my mother rather than getting into silent scorn with her. There's so much more I could have done. I could have done the work that I was asked to do in the book, but I didn't do any of that. I did what I wanted. So this one here, I turn into two questions. Was I thinking of myself most of the time, or was I thinking about what I could do for others, of what I could pack into the stream of life? Now, I really didn't understand what that meant. But we pack something into the stream of life every day. It's either joy, happiness, peace. We're either mean, egotistical, selfish, dishonest, kind, considerate, and loving. So I'm packing something in either way it goes. Was I thinking of me most of the time? A lot of the times today I can write others. Sometimes I have to write me. Sometimes I write both. Whatever it was, whatever I see, that's what I put down. Now, what did I do in my day? I'm going to give a quick overview of my day right here. Got up this morning, went and did a little work. I came home. I helped my wife around the house. I done this. I done that. I've talked with some others in the program today. I did the big book study today. I'm going to have dinner with my son and granddaughter here after a while. I'm going to come home for a relaxing evening. So I just kind of give an overview of my day. But I want to keep a good eye on all of this. But look what it says. We must be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection, because that would diminish our usefulness to others. And that's really what we're shooting for here. I want to improve this character in my life by doing what this is asking me to do, step 10 and step 11. And if I do that, people are going to attract to it, and I'm going to get to carry this message to someone else. If I'm not doing this, I'm going to diminish my usefulness to others, and I don't want to do that at all. I want to do what God has asked me to do here. All right, so here it is. After making my review, I turn this into a question. We ask God's forgiveness, and I do that. And I think most of us do that anyway, always have, even before meditation. God, please forgive me. But look at the next word, and, so that means there's more. What corrective measures should be taken? So that's going to become my prayer. God, what corrective measures should I take? And I'm going to sit in silence with that for just a little bit. And whatever comes to my mind, I'm going to put down. And usually, whatever it is, stay close, walk humble, help your brother, make the apology you owe that you seen earlier. Whatever comes up, that's what I'm going to put down. And I've gotten this down to where it takes about 5 or 7 minutes to do this in the evening. That would have saved 25 years of hell in my life and the lives of so many others. Beautiful, beautiful instructions here. And if we're following this, we can't stay the way we are. Well, according to my clock, we're about out of time here. So I just want to thank you guys for coming out. We've probably got a few more weeks of the book study left, and then I think that we will be finished with it. I usually do the first 7 chapters of the book. After next week, we'll be moving into chapter 7. There'll be a couple of times there, and then the book study will be finished. I think that we've talked about maybe doing some other things. We haven't completely come to an agreement on that as to how or any of that yet, but you can bet that we're going to pray and we're going to let the Spirit of the universe take the lead there. And so, man, it has been an honor for me to come out and share my experience, strength, and hope with you guys and you with me. It's a beautiful process of the book. It's one, thank God, I didn't miss. And I would just encourage anybody that has not done this work, if you haven't done it, or if you've done it and you haven't done it the way that it's outlined, please take a look at that, because this is how we recover here. And it's just who God intended us to be all along. And there's no doubt in my mind about today. So with that, I'm going to quit. I want to thank Dennis for his service. He is always such a service to this fellowship, and I'm so grateful he's my brother, and I'm glad to be here. Thanks.